There is so much AI stuff currently on YouTube and on other social media platforms. It's really surprising. Sometimes it's difficult even to distinguish what's real, what's not real anymore. But today is July 15th, 2025. And as of today, YouTube promised to crack down a little bit on AI content. This basically means that all of those YouTube channels that are generating AI content in large amounts are probably going to be demonetized. At least that's what YouTube mentioned. And that's probably good news for us science creators as well, because I think too that there is way too much so-called AI slop out there on the internet, so that people actually already have a problem distinguishing what's real and what's not real, right? So I don't know. I'm quite sure that you feel the same way. All of those AI voiceovers with an automated robotic sounding voice. I mean, it's horrible. I don't like to watch this stuff. And I can just basically promise you that at least the images that I'm showing you under the microscope, that's all real, right? But I just recently discovered something on my YouTube channel in the studio, in the back end, so to say. YouTube is recommending topics that I could make for my microscopy channel. So that's also an AI tool that YouTube included, and I think that's fine. YouTube is kind of recommending topics, what people are searching for, and it kind of should help me as a hobby microscopist, as a creator in general, to make content that also interests you, right? That's not the problem that I have, but I did discover something else. It's not only recommending topics, and it's not only creating an outline of what to talk about, but it's also suggesting thumbnails, those little pictures that you see, right? Yeah, to click on. And these pictures, these thumbnails are AI generated. And this is, oh, gee, really? Really? Is this really necessary? I'm not going to use those. Definitely not. But just wanted to share with you some of those AI generated thumbnails that YouTube basically suggested that I use, of microorganisms, of other things. Oh, and I tell you, no, 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 no. I'm worried. Okay. No, I'm not going to be using those. That's not the point. But I'm generally worried about, because the images that you see under the microscope, sometimes can already be very abstract, right? You have to sometimes know a little bit about biology already to simply make sense of what you're actually seeing, right? That's part of the hobby. That's part of the fascination of microscopy, you know, that essentially you discover new things and you try to figure out what it is. But there is a problem with that, and that problem is that yeah, for the general wider audience, it becomes increasingly more difficult to distinguish what's now real and what's actually AI, what's not real, what's fake. And I think that this actually does have some possible impact on yeah, I don't know how science is maybe perceived, right? If you start now flooding the internet with AI generated pictures of microbes, microorganisms, and so on, then essentially that's going to be a little bit the expectation that people are going to have when they look through a microscope. Those fancy, highly colorful, flashy images. And I think that's a little bit of a problem. And we've already seen a tendency like this, not in microscopy so much, but in the field of amateur astronomy. Those science channels that are talking about stars and the universe and galaxies, lots of AI generated content is there, right? I don't know, of beautiful galaxies and so on. And honestly, it becomes more and more difficult indeed also for the general audience to distinguish what is real and what's not real anymore. I mean, obviously for content creators, YouTubers, like I am, this AI generated images and videos have a huge advantage because we don't have this copyright problem anymore, right? People can much more easily generate and make YouTube videos and content, and you just basically you don't even have to pay for it a lot. I don't even have to pay license fees. All I do is I go into ChatGPT or one of those many other platforms that are now available, and you just basically generate some AI images or videos, clips even, and you can actually use them to deliver your science content, right? And it's cheap, it's fast, it's convenient. I don't have to worry about copyright claims or anything like that. So it's understandable that creators want to use those. But I think there is a huge problem with that because then for the audience, I mean, it's not real what you see, right? That's the first thing. That might be a concern that I have right now, but how's the future going to look like? Could it be that maybe people simply start to become immune against that and maybe even expect AI generated content? In the worst case scenario, yeah, maybe they don't even care, right? Or they even expect it, right? Because they're so used to it. Yeah, so that is a little bit the question that I am having is the line between what's real and the line what's fake, so to say, or not real, it becomes increasingly blurred. Yeah, and basically, yeah, I just hope that in the field of microscopy, at least we're not going into that direction, and where essentially the line between what's real and what's not real becomes more and more blurred. And that's actually one of the reasons why I like microscopy, and I'm sure that many of you do as well. It is because that's actually when I look through the microscope, I might not always understand what I'm seeing. I might have some problems getting a clear picture. Sometimes it's fuzzy. Sometimes there's the problems in preparing the specimen. It's not everything is not everything is as straightforward. But at least I can be sure that the microscope itself is simply delivering that what's there, and it's not just generated. I don't know. Yeah, you get what I mean, right? Just some thoughts that I have. Yes, there is a huge comments section below where you can leave your own opinions here, and we're gonna see how where the future is gonna take us. But one thing that I can assure you is, with the pictures, at least the videos that I'm showing you under the microscope, they're not gonna be AI generated. Okay, I definitely promise you that. Happy microbe hunting as always. See you around in the next video. Bye bye.